Alright, this is speed, velocity, and acceleration part 4. You should have a paper with some sample problems on it that we're going to work together so that you have them filled out as examples. And the first question should look like this: a tiger traveling from behind a tree. If you don't have that yet, let's pause this tape and get those passed out. Alright, again, you don't have to do these yourselves. I'm going to fill these out for you very slowly and carefully so you see exactly how you have to solve problems. Why do you have to solve them this way? Well, because you're learning a skill, and you have to be good at this particular skill before you can learn more complicated skills. So, you might have some other way you solve these problems. I'm happy for you, but you have to solve them this way in order to get credit on a test. So here we go. A tiger travels behind a tree, from behind a tree to behind you, which is 4.5 meters in 3.8 seconds. How fast is he moving? First step is, what do you know? Second step is, what are you trying to find? Then the equation, then rearrange and fill in, and the answer with units and correct sig figs. So let's go one step at a time. What do you know? We know that distance is equal to 4.5 meters and the time is equal to 3.8 seconds. Look what I did here. I didn't just write down 4.5 meters. So in other words, I didn't make it look like this. This is bad. That is not telling me what you know. All that is writing down numbers. You have to identify what those numbers are. 4.5 meters, that's distance. 3.8 seconds, that's time. Do you remember that worksheet that you got passed out, I think, during part 2, that had, maybe part 1, that had all the units listed on it? Alright, if you haven't memorized those yet, you might want to have that out with you while you're working. Alright, let's go show you a picture of what that that paper looked like. It looked like it looked like this. So again, if you haven't had that memorized yet, please get that out now. So pause if you need to for students to get that paper out. Alright, back to our problem. We have completed step 1, which is, what do you know? Step 2, what are you trying to find? S. You notice that I didn't say how fast is he moving. Alright? If you wrote right here, how fast is he moving? You would not get full credit. Alright? You need to write down the abbreviation for the variable that you're going to be solving for, which is S. What's our equation? Well, right now we only know one equation, but eventually you're going to know lots of them. S equals d divided by t. This is the kind of equation that I will write on the board for you. Alright? So you need to know that m stands for meters, and that meters measure distance. You need to know that s stands for seconds, and that seconds measures time. But it's okay if you forget this equation. You don't have to memorize this. We will provide it. Now you rearrange or you fill in the equation. Since I would prefer that you rearrange first, that's the way I'm going to show you. We are already solving, it's already set up to solve for speed, which is what we want. It doesn't need to be rearranged. Speed is distance over time. You plug in the values. Where it says D, you plug in the D. Where it says T, you plug in the T. It came from here. That's why you write these things at the beginning, so you have them when you need them. And you put it in your calculator. 4.5 divided by 3.8 equals 1.184210526315789. And at this point you say, how many of these am I supposed to write down? Well, there is an answer to that question. We just learned it last week. It's called significant figures. When you multiply or divide, your answer is limited to the number of significant figures that you started the problem with. So let's take a look at those. How many, oops, wrong color. I don't want to circle that with white. Let's circle that with red. Alright, how many sig figs does that have? 2. How many does that have? 2. So our answer should be limited to 2 significant figures. So this number should be rewritten with 2 significant figures. And that would be 1.2. And what's our units? Speed units. The distance portion of it is meters. The time portion of it is seconds. So our units are meters per second. That's our final answer. Alright, let's do another one. A mouse going at a speed of 0.890 meters per second scurries for 2.50 minutes. How far does he get? We're going to follow the same steps. So, pause if you need to finish filling in this last one. Alright, and then we're going to move ahead and we're going to solve this problem. And here we go. What do you know? Speed equals 0.890 meters per second and time equals 2.50 minutes. Again, it's not good enough just to write down those values. That is not good enough. That will not get full points. That will lose points. You have to identify them also. Now, red alert, red alert. Oh, something very, very important, very, very bad is going on. Do you see what it is? Here's what it is. Our speed is using meters per second, and our time is given to us in meters. That will not work. We have to solve that problem before we can go on to the next steps. How are we going to do that? We're going to use dimensional analysis. So, we have 2.50 minutes. And why am I changing my minutes to seconds? Sometimes you have to switch one or the other. In other words, why aren't I changing this to meters per hour or meters per minute? Or why aren't I changing both of them to hours? To be honest, in this problem, I'm just doing what's easiest. It's easiest to change my minutes to seconds. So here's my 2.50 minutes over 1. Here's my conversion factor right here. You guys remember that? It was not that long ago that we did conversion factors. There's 60 seconds in 1 minute. I multiply across the top. I multiply across the bottom. And 2.50 times 60 is 50 seconds. Do not worry about significant figures yet. We will not worry ourselves about significant figures till we get to the very end of the problem. Alright, so now we have our speed and our time. What are we trying to find? We're trying to find how far does he get. Notice I didn't write how far did he get. I wrote D, because how far did he get is asking us to find the distance that he's traveled. Here's our equation. Speed is distance over time. Now we rearrange it and fill it in, so I'm going to rearrange this equation to solve for distance. If you absolutely have to, plug your numbers in first and then rearrange. But here I've rearranged it first. Speed is distance over time. If you want workspace, you can always use the workspace over here to the right of the problem. So distance is speed times time. I plug in my speed, 0.890 meters per second. I plug in my time of 150 seconds. My seconds cancel because this one is a numerator and this one is denominator, leaving me with meters as the units that I have left. So canceling units is an important part of this type of problem too. 0.890 multiplied by 150 is 133.5 meters. I'm not done yet because I have to write my answer with the right number of significant figures. So we go back to our original problem and we look at the numbers in our original problem and we see how many significant figures they had. 0.890 meters per second. This, how many sig figs? If you said 2, you're wrong, it's 3. How many does this have? It also has 3. Alright, so 3 is our limiting factor. What if one of them had 2 and one of them had 3? Well, then we would have been limited to 2. But they both have 3, so our answer should be written with 3 significant figures, which is 134 meters. Why 134? The 5 makes the 3 round up to a 4. So here is our answer. By the way, if you get to this point and you're not really sure what your units should be, you're like, wait a second, it's 134, but what the heck was my units? What you do is you go back up and you say, okay, what did I solve for? I solved for distance. What distance unit did I have in my original problem? Well, meters. So therefore, my answer is going to be in meters too. Alright, how long will it take a car going 45 kilometers per hour to get 5.6 miles? What do you know? We have 45 kilometers per hour as our speed. Our distance is 5.6 miles. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Red alert, red alert. Gotta change that miles to match the kilometers. We multiply it by our conversion factor. Again, this is not a conversion factor you have to have memorized. I would give you this one. and you get 9.0104 kilometers. Don't worry about sig figs yet. Just carry over a bunch of these digits, at least 3 or 4 of them, and we'll do sig figs at the end. If you try to do your rounding for your sig figs too early, you get what's called rounding error. It's better to carry numbers for right now. We're trying to find time. Speed is distance versus time. We rearrange our equation for time. We plug in the values, and we get our answer. And how many sig figs should it have? Let's go back and look at our original number. It should have 2 sig figs. So we should write this number right here. That number should be written with 2 significant figures. So our answer is 0.20 hours. Pause here if you need to so that people have time to write this down. And we're going to go on whenever you're ready. Alright, now you have a paper that looks like this. If you don't, pause the video and get this paper passed out. So it's got a bunch of problems on it. I'm going to show you the answers to 2 of them, and then you'll continue working on yourself. The teacher has a key if you want to check your answers at some point in time. So here's question 1. Here is the key for question 1. And pause this, please. Actually, go back here. You try it. Substitute teacher, when you're ready to move the page forward, you move the page forward and then you pause it so they can check their answers. So pause, let them solve the problem. Now that they've solved the problem, let's advance the page. Alright, here's the key. And take a look at the key. Check your answer. If you got it wrong, please write it down correctly. And your answer with 3 significant figs is 32.2 meters per second. Alright, pause if you need to for them to write down the answers. Here is question number 2. Pause the video so they have time to work it out on their own paper. And here is the key. Pause it so they can check their work. Alright, now you have lots more problems on this paper. You're going to keep working on these in class. Thank you very much, and I hope that it goes well for you.